A solitary volcanic peak rises abruptly from the forests of Northern California, its snow-covered summit visible from more than 100 miles, or roughly 160 kilometers, away on a clear day. Mount Shasta dominates the horizon with an almost unnatural symmetry, standing over 14,000 feet, about 4,322 meters above sea level. It is not part of a continuous mountain chain in the way most peaks are. Instead, it exists in striking isolation, detached from neighboring formations as if positioned rather than formed. That physical separation has long fueled a deeper question. Why has this one mountain, among thousands across the planet, become a focal point for claims of portals, vanished people, unexplained lights, and hidden worlds? The speculation surrounding the mountain is not recent. Records stretching back centuries describe it as a place where ordinary explanations seem insufficient. Travelers moving through the region have repeatedly noted abrupt shifts in weather patterns, localized cloud formations that appear stationary despite strong winds, and luminous objects that seem to hover silently before disappearing into the upper atmosphere or, in some accounts, directly into the mountain itself. These reports are not confined to a single period. They appear sporadically across decades, forming a pattern that has resisted straightforward classification. Geologically, the mountain is a stratovolcano, built through layers of lava flows, ash deposits, and pyroclastic material over hundreds of thousands of years. Its last significant eruption is estimated to have occurred around the mid-13th century, though smaller-scale geothermal activity has continued intermittently since then. The structure includes extensive networks of lava tubes, natural tunnels formed when the surface of a lava flow cools and solidifies, while molten rock continues to move beneath it. Some of these subterranean passages extend for miles or kilometers beneath the surface, creating a hidden architecture that remains only partially mapped. These underground systems have contributed to persistent claims of concealed spaces within the mountain. Early 20th century accounts describe explorers encountering sealed entrances, unusual rock formations that appear deliberately shaped, and passages that extend beyond the reach of available equipment. One of the most frequently cited episodes involves a prospector who reportedly discovered a series of chambers containing artifacts inconsistent with known regional cultures. According to later retellings, the chambers included metallic objects, carved symbols, and skeletal remains of unusual size. The location was never conclusively verified, and attempts to relocate it ended without confirmation, leaving the account suspended between documentation and legend. Above ground, the surrounding region presents its own anomalies. Forested areas around the mountain have been the site of repeated reports involving large, unidentified creatures. Descriptions often converge on a figure exceeding 7 feet, or roughly 2.1 meters, in height, covered in dark hair and capable of moving rapidly through dense terrain. Tracks attributed to such beings have been documented, though none have provided definitive biological classification. While these accounts are often associated with broader folklore of unknown primates, their concentration around this specific mountain has reinforced its reputation as an outlier. Equally persistent are reports involving aerial phenomena. Observers have described disc-shaped objects, elongated lights, and formations that move in ways inconsistent with conventional aircraft. Some sightings occur at high altitude, while others are reported at relatively close range, sometimes accompanied by electrical interference affecting nearby equipment. In certain cases, witnesses have claimed to see these objects enter or exit the mountain structure without visible impact, suggesting either an optical illusion or an interaction not yet understood within established physical models. Meteorological conditions offer one layer of explanation. The mountain frequently generates lenticular clouds, lens-shaped formations created when moist air flows over a large obstacle and stabilizes into standing wave patterns. These clouds can appear smooth, symmetrical, and at times metallic in color, especially during sunrise or sunset, leading to misidentification as structured objects. However, not all reported sightings align with these conditions, particularly those involving rapid directional changes or sustained luminous intensity. Magnetic irregularities have also been documented in the broader region. Variations in the local magnetic field can affect compass readings and, under certain conditions, interfere with electronic devices. These fluctuations are not unique to this location, but their presence contributes to a broader environment in which navigational reliability is reduced. In terrain already characterized by dense forest and uneven elevation, such disruptions increase the likelihood of disorientation. Disappearance cases form another component of the mountain's profile. Over the years, individuals have gone missing under circumstances that remain unresolved. Some vanish along established trails, while others disappear in areas considered accessible and well-traveled. Search efforts, often involving ground teams, aerial surveys, and tracking units, have in several instances failed to locate any trace, no equipment, no footprints beyond a certain point, no clear indication of direction. While many missing person cases in wilderness environments can be attributed to exposure, injury, or navigational error, a subset of incidents lacks sufficient evidence to reconstruct a probable sequence of events. The historical context extends far beyond modern reports. Indigenous groups in the region have long maintained that the mountain holds a significance that is not purely physical. Traditions describe it as a place connected to origins, transformation, and forces that exist beyond ordinary perception. In some accounts, the upper elevations are regarded as a domain that should not be entered without specific purpose or preparation. These perspectives are embedded in cultural frameworks that interpret natural phenomena through symbolic and spiritual lenses, yet they also align with a consistent theme. The mountain is not an ordinary landscape feature. Archaeological sites in the vicinity add another dimension. Rock carvings found in areas such as Petroglyph Point display patterns that include animals, geometric shapes, and figures that some interpret as humanoid forms, with non-standard proportions. Dating methods suggest that these carvings were created thousands of years ago, though precise timelines vary depending on the technique used. While mainstream interpretations classify them within established cultural traditions, alternative readings propose that they depict encounters or observations not fully explained by current archaeological models. The convergence of these elements, geological complexity, atmospheric effects, magnetic variation, historical accounts, and modern reports, has led to the development of more expansive theories. Among the most prominent is the idea that the mountain functions as a kind of interface between environments, sometimes described in speculative terms as a gateway. In this framework, the physical structure of the mountain, combined with its internal cavities and electromagnetic properties, is proposed to create conditions under which conventional spatial boundaries become less stable. From a strictly scientific standpoint, no empirical evidence supports the existence of portals or dimensional transitions in this context. However, research into Earth's magnetosphere has demonstrated that temporary connections can form between planetary and solar magnetic fields, allowing charged particles to travel along defined pathways. These phenomena, while occurring on scales and under conditions far removed from human experience, illustrate that the planet's electromagnetic environment is more dynamic than it appears at ground level. The persistence of unexplained reports ensures that alternative interpretations remain in circulation. Accounts of individuals encountering luminous spheres at close range, experiencing time distortion, or reporting missing intervals in memory continue to surface. In some cases, these experiences are accompanied by physical effects such as static discharge, auditory anomalies, or sudden temperature changes. The variability of these reports makes systematic analysis difficult, as no single pattern encompasses all observations. Commercial interest has also developed around the mountain's reputation. Visitors travel from across the country and internationally, drawn by the possibility of witnessing or experiencing something outside the ordinary. Guided tours, informal expeditions, and independent exploration have all contributed to a steady flow of new accounts. This influx introduces additional variables, including expectation bias and the influence of prior narratives on perception. Despite increased attention, large portions of the mountain and its surrounding terrain remain relatively underexplored. Environmental protections, difficult access, and the inherent risks associated with high-altitude volcanic landscapes limit the scope of direct investigation. Seasonal conditions further restrict activity, with snowpack and weather variability, reducing accessibility for significant portions of the year. In parallel with physical exploration, technological monitoring has expanded. Satellite imaging, seismic sensors, and atmospheric analysis provide continuous data streams that can identify measurable changes in the region. These tools have confirmed ongoing geological activity at low levels, including minor tremors and thermal variations. However, they have not produced evidence that correlates directly with many of the more extraordinary claims. The gap between measurable data and reported experience remains one of the defining features of the mountain's profile. On one side, there is a framework grounded in geology, meteorology, and environmental science. On the other, a body of accounts that describe phenomena not easily reduced to those categories. The coexistence of these perspectives sustains the mountain's status as a point of convergence for both empirical observation and unresolved questions. The accumulation of reports tied to Mount Shasta does not diminish with time. Instead, it appears to expand in scope, drawing in new accounts that echo earlier patterns while introducing additional variables. Among the most persistent claims are those involving subterranean environments said to extend far beyond the known lava tube systems mapped beneath the mountain. Geological surveys confirm that volcanic structures of this scale often contain extensive internal cavities formed through successive eruptions and collapses. In some cases, these voids can reach lengths of several miles or kilometers, with complex branching pathways that remain inaccessible without specialized equipment. What distinguishes this location is not the presence of such formations, but the recurring assertion that some of these passages lead to spaces that do not align with expected geological configurations. Descriptions of these alleged interiors vary, yet certain elements appear repeatedly. Witnesses who claim to have entered or observed openings speak of smooth walls, lacking the irregular textures typical of cooled lava, surfaces that reflect light in a manner more consistent with polished material than fractured rock, and chambers large enough to accommodate structures described as architectural rather than natural. These accounts often include references to ambient illumination without a visible source, stable temperatures despite external conditions, and acoustics that distort or dampen sound. No verified expedition has produced physical evidence of such environments, yet the consistency in descriptive details across unrelated reports continues to draw attention. Closely tied to these claims is the long-standing narrative of a concealed settlement, frequently associated with the name Telos. Within this framework, the mountain is said to house a population that exists in isolation from the surface, maintaining a level of technological development not reflected in the surrounding region. Variations of the account describe inhabitants with distinct physical characteristics, advanced energy systems, and the capacity to move between locations without conventional transportation. While these assertions remain unsubstantiated, their persistence has influenced both public perception and the type of experiences visitors report, creating a feedback loop in which expectation and interpretation become increasingly intertwined. Surface-level observations contribute additional layers of complexity. Nighttime activity in the vicinity has generated a significant number of reports involving luminous phenomena. These range from small, rapidly moving points of light to larger formations that appear to maintain fixed positions relative to the mountain's summit. In some instances, observers describe beams or pulses that extend vertically or at shallow angles, briefly illuminating sections of the terrain before fading without residual effect. Instrumental recordings of such events are limited and, when available, often lack the resolution required to determine distance, velocity, or composition. One proposed mechanism for certain light displays involves piezoelectric effects generated by stress within crystalline rock structures. Under specific conditions, mechanical pressure can produce electrical charges, which in turn may create visible emissions. This process has been documented in controlled environments and, on rare occasions, in natural settings associated with tectonic strain. However, the scale and behavior of the lights reported near the mountain frequently exceed what would be expected from such mechanisms alone, particularly in cases involving sustained motion or directional changes. Electromagnetic anomalies remain a focal point for analysis. Measurements taken in various sectors around the mountain have identified localized fluctuations that differ from regional baselines. These variations can affect compasses, disrupt radio signals, and, in some cases, produce transient interference in electronic devices. The underlying causes are likely multifactorial, involving mineral composition, subsurface structures, and broader interactions within Earth's magnetic field. While none of these factors independently suggests the presence of a portal or gateway, their combined effect creates an environment in which standard reference points are less reliable, potentially contributing to disorientation and misinterpretation. The human factor introduces further variables. Individuals entering the area often do so with prior knowledge of its reputation, whether derived from historical accounts, contemporary media, or direct recommendation. This preconditioning can influence perception, particularly in environments where visibility is limited and sensory input is ambiguous. Reports of time distortion, for example, frequently involve discrepancies between perceived duration and recorded intervals. A person may believe that only a short period has passed, while objective measurement indicates a significantly longer span. Such experiences can arise from a range of factors, including fatigue, stress, and environmental monotony, yet their recurrence in this specific location sustains alternative interpretations. Disappearances associated with the mountain continue to resist simple categorization. In several documented cases, individuals equipped with navigation tools and familiar with the terrain have failed to return from routine excursions. Search operations, sometimes extending over days or weeks, have yielded minimal evidence, even in areas where ground cover would be expected to preserve tracks or disturbances. Weather conditions, including sudden fog formation and rapid temperature shifts, can complicate these efforts, reducing visibility to near zero within minutes. Terrain features such as steep ravines, loose volcanic rock, and concealed openings add to the risk profile, yet they do not account for every instance in which no trace is found. Wildlife behavior in the region has also been cited as atypical. Observers have noted periods of unusual silence in forested zones where expected animal activity diminishes without an apparent external trigger, In other instances, animals appear to avoid specific areas altogether, altering movement patterns in ways that are not easily linked to seasonal changes or known predators. While such behavior can result from subtle environmental cues, including shifts in air pressure or the presence of seismic precursors, its correlation with locations identified in anomalous reports has been interpreted by some as indicative of broader disturbances. The role of atmospheric optics cannot be overlooked. Temperature gradients, moisture content, and particulate matter can combine to produce visual effects that alter the appearance of objects at distance. Mirages, refraction, and diffraction can distort size, shape, and motion, creating impressions that diverge from physical reality. Lenticular clouds, already common around the mountain, can act as reflective surfaces under certain lighting conditions, amplifying these distortions. Yet, as with other explanatory models, optical phenomena do not encompass the full range of reported experiences, particularly those involving close-range interactions. Cultural continuity plays a significant role in maintaining the mountain's profile. Indigenous traditions associated with the region have been transmitted across generations, preserving interpretations that frame the mountain as a site of origin, transition, and restricted access. These perspectives do not rely on modern terminology such as dimensions or portals, yet they convey a consistent message regarding the mountain's distinct status. The overlap between these long-standing beliefs and contemporary accounts, despite differences in language and context, contributes to the perception of an enduring phenomenon rather than a recent construct. Archaeological findings, including those at Petroglyph Point, continue to be examined for patterns that might clarify historical interactions with the landscape. The carvings present a combination of recognizable fauna, abstract symbols, and figures that some interpret as representing entities beyond ordinary human form. While mainstream analysis situates these within known cultural expressions, alternative readings suggest that they may encode observations of events or encounters that have not been fully contextualized. The absence of written records from the period limits definitive interpretation, leaving visual analysis as the primary tool for understanding. Technological monitoring has expanded in both scope and precision. Seismic networks track micro-tremors that occur beneath the mountain, providing data on subsurface movement and stress accumulation. Thermal imaging identifies variations in surface temperature that may indicate geothermal activity, while satellite-based instruments monitor changes in atmospheric composition and electromagnetic conditions. These systems generate continuous data sets, yet correlations between recorded anomalies and reported phenomena remain inconsistent. In many cases, events described by observers occur without corresponding signals in the available data, or the data itself lacks the resolution to capture transient effects. Commercial and recreational activity continues to introduce new data points. Visitors equipped with advanced cameras, drones, and environmental sensors contribute to an expanding archive of images and recordings. Some of these materials capture phenomena that can be analyzed within established frameworks, while others remain ambiguous due to limitations in angle, resolution, or duration. The increasing availability of such technology has not resolved the central questions, but has shifted the discussion toward more detailed examination of individual cases. Environmental conditions impose practical constraints on both observation and analysis. The mountain's elevation, exceeding 14,000 feet, or over 4,300 meters, creates a high-altitude environment where oxygen levels are reduced, and weather can change rapidly. Snow cover persists for much of the year, obscuring ground features and limiting access to certain areas. These factors reduce the frequency and duration of on-site study, concentrating activity into narrower seasonal windows. As additional reports accumulate, the pattern remains consistent. a convergence of natural processes and unexplained observations within a geographically distinct location. The absence of a single comprehensive explanation allows multiple interpretations to coexist, each addressing specific aspects while leaving others unresolved. The mountain's physical characteristics, its isolation, internal structure, and interaction with atmospheric and electromagnetic systems provide a foundation for analysis, yet they do not fully account for the range of experiences associated with it. The continuing flow of accounts ensures that the profile of Mount Shasta remains dynamic rather than static. Each new observation, whether attributed to identifiable mechanisms or not, adds to a data set that is both extensive and fragmented. Patterns emerge in certain areas, particularly in the recurrence of specific types of phenomena, but these patterns do not converge into a singular explanatory model. Instead, they reinforce the central characteristic that has defined the mountain across generations, a persistent alignment of measurable anomalies and unverified claims, existing side by side without definitive resolution.